You kept meaning to reach out. You just never did. Not because you didn't care, because you assumed they'd still be there. That patience like theirs doesn't have an end. That silence means waiting. But silence doesn't always mean waiting. Sometimes it means they already moved on without making a sound. And by the time you looked up, they had already found their balance without you in it. You didn't lose them to a fight. You didn't lose them to a goodbye. You lost them to all the weeks you said, next week. This is the story of a wolf who stopped waiting for the right moment, only after the moment had already passed.
The wolf had one true friend, and that friend was a turtle.
No one in the forest could quite make sense of that friendship. The wolf was fast, decisive, and carried that particular kind of noise that belongs to someone who has never had to be still. The turtle was slow, measured, and carried his silence not as something imposed on him, but as something he had chosen. There was no obvious connection between them, but friendship rarely comes from what is obvious. It comes from something more private, from that subtle alignment where two beings feel meaningful to each other, even if they cannot fully explain why. Sometimes friendship forms suddenly, unexpectedly. They had met when they were young, before the wolf had become the one he would eventually turn into. The turtle listened in a way the wolf had never seen before, not just waiting for his turn to speak, but truly taking in what was said, reflecting on it, and returning it clearer than it had arrived. The wolf had never told him this. He had assumed the turtle already knew. He had assumed many things about what the turtle knew. That was how he thought. As the seasons passed, the wolf's world expanded and accelerated. There were territories to manage and grow, decisions to make, other animals demanding his attention in that urgent, pressing way that made it easy to postpone the turtle's quieter presence. The wolf began arriving late to their meetings. Then he came less often. Then he started sending word that this week wasn't possible, but next week would be different. He kept going like that. And when next week came, it somehow turned into the week after. The turtle never complained. That wasn't his nature. He had seen the turtle go quiet once. Not the comfortable quiet, but the other kind. The kind that appears when someone has finally stopped waiting. He continued to show up at the old log by the stream where they had always met. It wasn't in his nature. He kept coming to the old log by the river where they always met. He sat there with the quiet stillness of someone who had nowhere more important to be. He waited with patience, not as a virtue he performed, but as a natural way of being in the world. The wolf didn't understand. What he couldn't see from the distance he had created was this: patience is not the same as being endless. Even the turtle, who could endure almost anything, had a limit. Not of anger, not of resentment, but of quiet acceptance. A point where absence over time is absorbed and becomes a new reality. And the turtle, as he did with everything, adjusted himself to it. By the time the wolf looked up, the turtle already had. It happened on an ordinary morning. The wolf was passing through the southern part of the forest when he saw the turtle moving slowly along a path they used to walk together. Nearby, a young crow was asking the turtle something, with the kind of curious, sincere attention of someone who had just discovered that his answers were worth waiting for. The turtle spoke in his usual unhurried way, and the crow listened, both fully present in a way the wolf recognized from his own distant memories. The turtle looked up and saw the wolf. He nodded, warm, genuine. There was no resentment in it. It was the greeting of someone who had found his balance and no longer expected it to be disturbed. The wolf kept walking, but something followed him. It wasn't exactly shame. It was closer to this. He had seen in himself something he would have judged in someone else, and that feeling did not sit easily with him. He carried it through the afternoon and into the evening, turning it over inside himself the way the turtle used to turn over words, trying to understand what it meant. What he found was not comfortable. He had treated the turtle's patience like a resource. He had used it without replenishing it. It took him 3 days to admit that to himself. He had mistaken the turtle's consistency for proof that nothing was being lost. He had taken the absence of complaint as evidence that there was no cost. The turtle had never asked for much, but the wolf had used that as permission to give nothing. There is a difference between someone who needs little and someone you have chosen to give little to. 3 days later, he found the turtle by the old log. He didn't come with explanations. He had formed some on the way, but he let them go. He sat beside the turtle and said he had been absent for a long time. He spoke the first sentence and stopped. It wasn't everything he meant to say, but it was true. Then he continued. He said he had confused the turtle's patience with something endless, that he understood what it had cost them both, and that he was sorry. The turtle stayed silent for a long time. Then he said he had missed him, simply, without dramatizing it. They were not the same as before. Some days that was enough. Some days it wasn't. What they built after that day was more intentional, smaller in some ways, more honest in others. When the wolf said he would come, he came. He arrived without rushing and left without rushing. He began to listen the way the turtle always had, imperfectly at first, then gradually better, clearer. The forest in its quiet way noticed that the wolf had slowed down a little. He hadn't become weaker. He simply knew where he was going now. And this time, he wasn't leaving someone behind. Speed will take you many places, but some places can only be reached by slowing down. And some people deserve to be reached before they stop waiting. Maybe you have always been running. Maybe you still are. Maybe somewhere in the back of your mind there is someone waiting for you, or no longer waiting at all. Some things do not leave with noise. They simply stop waiting. And by the time you notice, the silence has already turned into something permanent. Have you ever looked up and realized that someone had already made peace with your absence before you even understood that you had been gone? Some things, in silence, say more than words ever could. And in our next story, you will see why a rabbit's silence becomes the most powerful thing in the forest.